Ke a le dumedisha ka gae ka lapeng ke re thobela bana ba tšegalaka le go le ke dutse le morena Thao Haramanuba re tlo bolela ka the flat earth and the round earth. Leina la ka ke nna Duchess of the Sea, and after this conversation you'll come to understand where the name came from. So ke gopela gore le ntlhalosetseng mooki. I've navigated ships around the world, and I've gone as far west and as far east as I possibly can, and I've gone as far north and as far south as I possibly can, navigating the ships. One thing that has never happened is that asanke ka fihla mo eleng gore ka le ke mafelelong e tshwanela ko gore re a wa or ba re dia U-turn, and you would logically you would think gore metsi a sa dula pleke one a flow, so a flowing in that direction towards the earth, towards the earth, to the edge. There's bound to be acceleration. Means that's my more speedy because I lower like even when it rages towards the edge of the waterfall, it's always quite turbulent. So I've never come across such a thing. And so I'm back home now, and I keep hearing people no, the earth is flat. Babambari, no, the earth is round. And as a navigator, after having been out there, I'm having a serious cognitive dissonance because I spent so many years studying this and actually applying it in practice, trying to figure out also, while moving goods from one end of the world to another, being faced with these existential questions, but I've never quite had an answer. So mohlomongwe ka nthusha go ihlalosa le hlatholle ga botse gore na ga botse why batho ba re the earth is flat and the earth is a disc, well, it's either a disc, a round disc, or it's a globe, or again is it okay gona le ka godimo le ka fase mara either way gore le don't tlhalosetsa gore na go diragala ga botse ga botse. Others are of the view that no, the pyramid as we know them, it's actually just the top part of if you look at the Washington Monument, it's only that top part. The structure that is holding that top part, it goes indefinitely in underground, and no one actually knows how far underground that goes. So it's a lot, and I'm quite curious, and I'm hoping
my name is Thao Haramanumba. I'm a Sanusi, Bantu Soul Society. We always say the oldest soul is the Bantu soul.
Totally.
And now it means we go to our ancestors' consciousness in order to define our current consciousness. Our ancestors, the earth is round, is spherical actually. The first evidence of that is a rainbow. What a rainbow is it?
Yes, it's an arc. Yeah, our level lights, yes.
That's the first evidence out of facility.
Yeah.
Le round, le spherical. Okay. But then we had the symbols, a whole lot of symbols. The Pamandara, the snake biting its tail, making a circle. Correct. The oldest symbol of God is a circle. So, le facile round. Christopher Columbus, as you are a seafarer, I'm beginning with Christopher Columbus.
Yes.
To bring some familiarity, because Christopher Columbus, the difference was he was a pirate and you are not. And he was an invader.
Although I do believe I would have been a pirate if I was sailing during those days.
Probably.
The way I'm radical about this.
Yeah, so probably you'll be sailing with Jack Sparrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Christopher Columbus, was told by a black, he came from a society that believed that the earth is round. At one point, it's gonna fall over, meet the edge of the world.
Correct.
And so mostly the people who were sailing with him, they were riffraffs, they were no-gooders, they were people that who were not wanted in Europe. They had to go and take some people from Bastille prison who were not wanted in Europe.
The outcasts.
The outcast. Because they were hoping that they are not going to come back.
Correct.
So they must just go and be swallowed by the sea. But then while he was in Spain, he met a Moor, the blacks from North Africa, the Moors. Remember, the Moors ruled Spain for 700 years. They introduced civilization to Spain, to Europe through Spain. They introduced hygiene system, bathing, and also. And the oldest university in Europe was built by the Moors, Salamanca, in Spain. So this African told Christopher Columbus that the world, the earth is round. And the evidence of that, Abajali, he took the egg and put it in its corners, like cut the corners, not like this. In that way, they are like that. And you see, like the way the egg is, that's how the earth is.
Like conical.
Conical, not like almost like oblong position. So he's the first one who told him that the earth is round, and therefore he has to be his navigator. These people, I don't know, it was a standard rule. They were using 3 ships. Christopher Columbus was sailing with Santa Maria, Pinta, and Nina, funded by Queen Isabella of Spain and King Ferdinand, the girl queen, the child queen. Pedro. So now, then he has to take him through now to show him that the earth is round. And amongst her, if you go that way, you're going to come back this way. So the earth is round, in summary, the face round. It's not flat and it's not square. Like we are made to believe it is square in all the 4 corners. But so the earth does not, it's a circle. So the circle does not have cardinal points. So, and that is why you see the old compass, eventually north, northeast, northeast, west, all of that. Eventually, the compass itself is, at the end of the day, cyclical. It's cycle, is round. So it is from the old knowledge to say the earth is flat, the earth is got 4 corners. Actually, the old ignorant knowledge of Europe. And then, but what the Africans have always maintained consistently was the earth is round. What goes around comes around. If you go that way, you want to come back this way. So now I heard you mentioned whether the earth is a heap of decomposing material.
Yes. So now the question goes to the River Nile. The River Nile is, we made to understand that is flowing upstream, north. And then there's also those questions of whether north is north and south is south. And the argument there is that it's like it's a mountain. The continent itself of Africa.
Africa's a mountain.
If you're looking at the continent of Africa, is a mountain. It's a heap of rocks and decomposed giant giant civilization, right? During the days of the giants, and when everything collapsed, and they just sort of fell in a shape of whatever it is that they were. That's why you come across pictures that look like an elephant, a woman sleeping, a paw, a skull, and all of those things. And so could that then explain why the River Nile and its origins are on the other side of the mountain, perhaps? And yes.
Well, the mistake that people are making is looking at the map the way map is drawn. If you look at the map of Africa, Egypt is in the north.
Yeah.
That is according to the map, not according to the way it is.
Yes.
Right now, there are arguments that South Africa is in the north, actually.
Yes.
None of them is in the north of the south. So it's part of this circle. Now, if you travel from here with buses from South Africa all the way to Uganda, you are going uphill.
Yeah.
That is why you'll find places like Ethiopia, they're the highest point above sea level. Places like Kilimanjaro, they're the highest, tallest mountain, because they're standing now in the peak of this mountain, on the peak of this mountain. So where the source of the Nile is it is in the mountain. Like most sources of most rivers flow from the mountains
Downwards, yes.
So the Nile is flowing from the highest peak, which is referred to as the equator. And then it's going down.
Okay.
Now, that downward movement, is flowing up north. It's not going up. It's going down.
It's going down a mountain.
It's going down a mountain.
Right.
The other side of the mountain. Again, the mountain has got different sides of it.
Correct, yeah.
This side and 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 this side. So it is flowing downward to Kimet. So Kimet is down the mountain through Uganda. So the source of it in Lualaba, it is in the highest point where then it is flowing down. So Nile is not flowing up or flowing northward, but it's flowing
downstream from the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about celestial bodies? Utilizing from a navigation perspective, utilizing certain celestial bodies like very visible stars, the brightest stars, to help navigate the ship, and during the day we're using the sun. Can you talk to me about that? And also, how come is it that we, at some point, I think as far back as 2003, 2004, we stopped making use of the moon? Even in our nautical almanac, we used to have the Lulu tables, which during the full moon you were able to utilize the moon. But when you do the calculations, the error is so large you can't get a position line of a ship, and so you can't plot it. And so we had to stop it, and I'd never really quite understood why that is. And then I'm hearing these days that no, the moon is not real. They stole the moon, which I think is just a little bit out there, but there is a figure over there. Yeah. There is a celestial body. It's up there in the wind, in the atmosphere, and there is no clear understanding of what that thing is. There is, the Americans are claiming that they've been there, and there is no moon, it's just a round thing, and yet when they plugged their flag, it was wavy, and there was a giant foot, which there was no way that it could have been any of their footprint, those things. And please tell me about that, because again, it's another one of those things. I'll do a very long calculation to find it, using a star to try and find the noon position, and all of those things, and how do they fit into each other, and how real any of it is?
Well, I think the people who say the moon is stolen, they watch too much Despicable Me. Yeah. Those cartoons.
Yes.
They're plotting to steal the moon.
Yeah.
You can't steal the moon.
No, you
Number
can't.
One.
Yes.
And if you steal it, you hide it away.
One of my questions was, how big is that thing?
Yeah.
How far is it? How heavy is it? What's it made of? If you were able to steal it, can you talk me through the process, how you snatched it and replace it with something else?
And why would you steal the moon and replace it with...
And do what with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the moon, like the sun, these are celestial objects that are bigger than the earth. Like, the sun is 190 kilometers away from the earth, where you can fit in about 110 earth inside the sun. The moon is equally bigger, far. So the Americans never went to the moon. The first people to dispute it were the Russians with evidence. Because they were into this thing, arms race, and then space race to conquer the space. And so it was then proven that those three gentlemen, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and then Michael Collins, I think it was Michael Collins. There were three men who claimed to have gone to the moon. That this thing was all staged in Hollywood, in the studios. And then the Russians get to pinpoint that one, there is no way that you are going to have a footprint on the moon because there's no force of gravity.
Yes.
So there's no way. Number one. Number two, the flag, the American flag that they put there, it was flippering.
Yes.
So it can't flipper because there's no wind.
There's no wind, yeah.
And then three, if you look at that picture of moon landing with those famous statements like one giant leap
for the mankind,
and there's no such giant leap that Americans made. So when you look at that picture, you see studio lights in the background.
Okay.
And through the stretch of their imagination, they wanted to even want people to believe it's the sun at a distance, which is not. So the moon is the moon. Nobody stole the moon. Nobody can steal the moon. Secondly, no one went to the moon, including the Americans. The evidence is out there, a lot of it, to prove otherwise. And then secondly, why the moon could not be reliably used. Even the oldest calendar were stellar calendar when they were based on stars. And the oldest civilization was the stellar civilization, the lunar civilization, and the moon and the sun.
The stars as a navigation aid. It's also documented in the Bible. You know, the three wise men and and the three stars
and
until
the
they
stars. Yes, and you find it throughout all civilization. Like for us, when we know that it's going to be winter, then there is a star that came in May. We call it Naga or Canopus in Latin. Canopus.
Yes, that's one of the stars we utilize as well.
Yeah, and then that there is an indication that now it is dawn. There is a star that signal the coming of the sun.
Yes.
Yes. And then
also we call it, we actually saying it's a planet. We have a theory that it's a planet, and it's planet Venus.
It's Venus, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I get to know the name star, it's a collective name for celestial bodies.
Correct. Yeah.
So when they say stars, like even when you look now out in the sky, not every shining object that is there is a star.
It's a star, correct.
There are about 3,000 satellites up there. There are planets, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and so forth. And so when they just say star, they just collectively mean all these shining objects up there. But not everything is a star. Some is planets, as you rightfully point out. That is a star. Like, for instance, Mochochonono. It's not a star, it's a comet.
Yeah.
The shooting
it's
comet.
Shooting, yes.
Yeah, that is what like but it's a comet. So some of the calendars, like the old Zulu calendar, will use the stars during the night. Now, this particular star position at this time, it's midnight, position in this, it's in the morning, it's dawn, it's signaling dawn, and so forth.
Yeah, and you could also, those ones, you could also see them when you hear the crow. If you go out and you look out, you'll see that particular star. And so it will sound when this certain star is at a certain position, then you'll know. And then
yeah. So now the moon could not be reliably used because the moon, there are three phases of the moon: the new moon, the dark moon, and the old moon. Yeah. And then, but also the moon, the phases where it fade. So they couldn't completely reliably use it, but there are times when there is no moon.
Yeah.
Different phases, the 14
Correct.
days phases. So most of our calendars were lunar, were moon based, but also were synchronized according to the menstruational cycle of a woman, the moon. Hence, the moon is considered to be a feminine principle, that the moon is Ma and the sun is Ra. So therefore, I should believe that is one of the reasons why in the nautical navigation they stopped using the moon, because it's not consistently there.
Yeah.
So therefore,
you can't predict it.
You can't predict it.
It's altitude. It's azimuth. You can't exactly. Sometimes it's right more to the west of the east and more to the south. The north of the east and the south of the. But and you can never really. The variation is never really consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even when we were in the military, they used the stars, the northern stars, or what they call them, the northern stars.
Yeah. Polaris.
Polaris. Yes. They will use that for direction. That whenever you are going somewhere, you are in the bush, you look for these particular stars to plot your direction.
Correct.
Because human beings, they have unequal limbs. So if you walk in the bush without any navigation, you're likely to come back where you were, even if it's not the same place, but next to where you were.
Okay.
Because so you tend to walk towards the shorter leg side.
Okay. So and then it's so you create like a conical path. Yeah. A circular path.
Cyclical.
Yeah.
So therefore the best way, star navigation is the oldest, using the stars, and is the most reliable for that particular matter. So that is why there is a shift in terms of navigation to there. But when it comes to the moon, they find that most of the things are very temporal, because the moon is not always visible, it's not always there. Unlike the sun, the sun is there.
It will rise, it will set.
It will rise, it will set. It will rise, it will set consistently. So now the question of the you make mention of one of the examples of the Bible that the wise men from the east were following a star, particular star, to lead them to Bethlehem, and there are a whole lot of stories like that about stars, all the way to ancient Egypt. So I can say that is one of the reasons, that could be one of the most possible reasons why a shift in using the moon into the stars in terms of direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now the whole idea that like you said, the earth is round, but it's not. Is it not a ball, or is it a round sphere, so to speak? Because the other thing, one of the things that I was asking is, if we are on a round earth, and 70% of this round earth is covered in water, what's holding the water in place? And then I was told it's gravity. And it's like the earth is breathing. When the attraction or the forces between the moon and the earth, which would create then
waves.
the waves and the tidal changes and tidal variation, it can explain why the water remains on this ball, right? But others are saying no, but the earth is flat, there is no water that is gonna fall on the side. It's just what it is. You've got 70% of this coverage being underwater, and the rest of it is these mountains that we call continents. And these continents, at some point, they were all one thing, and then through shifting of technoplates and whatever,
tectonic plates,
So they started spreading and positioning themselves where they are. It still doesn't answer the question for me of where north is or south is and who came about with these. I've been to Antarctica, and it's believed that in the Antarctica that's where the portal is. Even in the Arctic, the portals to Halowe, the center of the earth, it was covered up in the polarities, and those polarities are basically, you know, the north and the south. Yes. So I'm still stuck with that. How do I know? And recently I saw a video that said no, even what is known as the Earth's magnetism is not real. There's no a compass needle that seeks north. The compass needle will seek north within its own immediate environment, not a geographic north. There's no such thing. So again, I'm going back to sea, by the way, you know, and while I'm out there, I will make it my business to do research, not things that are written in the book, but by observing nature and how nature is working, and document this, because I have so many questions back when I was still there, before I came across this knowledge. For me, it was just, we navigate. We were taught this is how you navigate. If you want to move from one continent to another, you draw a great circle track, and then you follow that great circle track. It's a curve, and then you're gonna end up where you want to be. But and I never went deeper to understand why are we choosing these particular famous or common shipping routes. What is the whole idea about it, apart from the fact that you know, there are currents and the ships were intended to take advantage of those natural currents to gain speed if they're heading in certain direction, either north or south, etc., etc. So I'm going back out there, and I'm gonna make sure that I make my own little research on just based on nature. I'm gonna ask nature to give me the answers to the questions that I seek. But while I'm here, I want to collect as much information as I can, so that I can then do a comparison, or sort of a comparative analysis of why we do things the way we do them at sea, and how does it fit into the layman's knowledge on the land. And what is it that we've been taught? Is it accurate? Is it proper for us to be taught that way?
Well, knowledge is not neutral.
Yeah.
So what we have, it's a knowledge of, in this case, our colonizers, who were seafarers mostly, who gave us all these current mappings that we use. So what is north for them is not necessarily north for us. And what is north to them at that particular geographical positioning, whether in the sea or on land, is not the same. And hence today you find us celebrating Book Christmas, things that's supposed to be festivities of the Northern Hemisphere. And certain events that are supposed to be taking place in the Northern Hemisphere are not taking place here. Like winter solstice. Like now we talk about winter solstice now here.
Yes, for them it's summer.
It's summer. Is the opposite. So their winter solstice is December actually. So it is colonialism again, which impose uniformity of knowledge and definitions and the mapping. It was also colonialism which gave us the map the way it is, and tell us that there is the north, is North Africa, this is Southern Africa, East Africa, West Africa. But apart from them saying that there is no evidence, so therefore they will even create instruments like compass that eventually corroborate their theories, because they are being built in their image and likeness of their theories. So epistemology, it is not neutral. Cultural imperialism imposed this uniformed knowledge
Correct.
in order to suit their epistemology.
Correct.
So now the earth, when we say it's round, we're not talking about round ball, like some round in a way that you just slide like this. It's spherical. It's round. I said that one of the evidence of that is the rainbow in the sky, right? It always shows arcing. But also, it's not a round that you will expect that these waters will all fall into the down part of the circle.
Yeah.
Like we were saying that the circle has no directions. There's no north, east, southwest.
Yeah.
So there is
Left,
no ups.
right,
There's no upside, up the upper part of it and the lower part of it. That will therefore create some oblong waterfalls or some cyclical waterfalls.
Yeah.
So you rightfully say that this is all contained by this thing that our people call the ratadima or logodimo, which is therefore a container that is containing everything that is within this part, the water and so forth. There are other even theories that goes further to say this thing that we see, the blue, the firmament, it's water. So they will talk about the waters above and not waters on earth and waters below, like inner earth. Like if you go through the caverns of the earth underground, you're going to find underground rivers. There are underground rivers. You go, you dig down, you get water. But you look also on earth, you get the waters of the rivers, of the lakes, and of the oceans. And then again, what account to rain? Some they say is clouds. But what happens when it's a blue sky and then it's raining? Where is this water coming from? Because not every rain it's coming after clouds, after there are clouds in the sky. So I think that is, our ancestors have answered that, but that is what modern scholars, modern knowledge need to do its research and discover that when they say this thing, it's a circle, it's not a circle in our understanding of a circle, but it's a circle in a very, very bigger way that does not make things fall from it. Yeah. You know, like how we say from Kilimanjaro, from the equator going that side, you're going down. From the equator coming this side, you're going down. But you're not falling down, you're not sliding. You're not, it's a downward movement, but doesn't cause anything to.
Correct.
The rocks are not rolling down.
It's at such a large scale that it's barely noticeable.
Exactly. It's barely noticeable. It doesn't cause anything to roll down. No big boulders of stones are rolling down. No buses, transport, or cars will be like, hey, but it's still going down. It's still a downward movement. So it is cycling in a very big way. Like how we will look at the sun and you see that there's a ball there. But I should assume that the closer you look, you approach the sun, you will not notice the ball. And if it was possible for anyone to land on the sun, you will not notice that you're going to land on a ball. Or land on the moon, or land on Mars, or any of these planets there. There wouldn't be anything that's saying, what you're just gonna see is like the topography, like when you're flying with an aeroplane. You just see topographical features. And there is nothing that really points to you that this is